Medjool. The Medjool date originates from Morocco, cultivated for centuries in the valleys of the Atlas Mountains and along the Drara River, where it was historically reserved exclusively for royalty and high-ranking guests. The palms that produced it were carefully guarded, and ordinary people rarely tasted the fruit, a legacy of exclusivity that partly explains why Medjool continues to command premium pricing in modern markets. Its survival into the present day is genuinely precarious in origin. In the early 1900s, a fungal infection called Bayou disease swept through North African date palm populations and nearly eradicated the variety entirely. The only reason Medjool exists today is because a handful of healthy offshoots were transported to the United States in 1927 and successfully replanted, eventually establishing the thriving California and Arizona growing industries that now supply global demand. The fruit itself is large, soft, and extraordinarily sweet, with natural glucose and fructose delivering a deep honey and caramel flavor profile that has no real equivalent in the date world. Unlike drier varieties, Medjool retains significant moisture even at full ripeness, giving it a plush, almost indulgent texture. That same moisture content shortens its shelf life compared to other cultivars, requiring refrigerated storage and more careful handling throughout the supply chain. In the kitchen, it is endlessly versatile, stuffed with nut butters or blue cheese, pressed into energy balls, blended into smoothies, or simply eaten fresh as a natural confection that requires nothing added to it. Deglet Nour. The Deglet Nour is the most commercially traded date in the world, and its dominance in global markets comes down to a combination of flavor accessibility and practical durability that no other cultivar quite matches. Where Medjool is soft, rich, and intensely sweet, the Deglet Nour is semi-dry, notably firmer, and carries a flavor that is mild and delicately honeyed rather than overwhelmingly rich. That restraint is precisely what makes it so useful. It does not compete aggressively with other ingredients, performing equally well in baking, cooking, and salads. Its relatively low moisture content means it keeps well without refrigeration, making large-scale international export economically practical in a way that more delicate varieties cannot achieve. The name translates from Arabic as date of light, a reference to the way the fruit becomes almost translucent when held up to sunlight at the correct stage of ripeness, the golden amber flesh glowing from within. It originates from the Saharan oasis regions of Algeria and Tunisia, particularly the Zibans area near the Algerian town of Biskra, some of the harshest landscape on Earth, characterized by extreme heat, minimal rainfall, and alkaline sandy soils in which date palms not only survive but produce extraordinary fruit. The Algerian and Tunisian varieties remain the benchmark for quality, though the cultivar was introduced to California in the early 20th century and now accounts for the majority of American date production. Its higher sucrose content compared to softer varieties contributes to its firmer texture and less intensely sweet flavor. Ajwa. The Ajwa date grows almost exclusively in and around the city of Medina in Saudi Arabia, the second holiest city in Islam, and occupies a position of profound religious and cultural significance that no other date variety shares. It is mentioned in several hadith attributed to the Prophet Muhammad, and is widely known throughout the Islamic world as the holy date, believed by many to carry protective and health-promoting properties. The fruit is small, round, and very dark, almost black at full ripeness, with thin, slightly wrinkled skin and a dense, soft interior that is not overly sticky. The flavor is shaped by the volcanic soil of the Medina region, which imparts a slightly spicy, mineral-edged richness to the flesh. The taste profile is complex and genuinely distinctive, with detectable notes of dark chocolate, molasses, and a faint herbal finish that lingers after eating. Compared to Medjool, Ajwa is less moist. Compared to Deglet Nour, it feels smoother and more integrated in texture. Production is geographically limited to the Medina area, and the relatively small yields keep prices consistently high, often exceeding even Medjool in cost. Ajwa dates are frequently given as gifts, particularly within Muslim communities, and are sought out for their perceived health benefits, including antioxidant content and dietary fiber. Historically, they were mashed and used to help infants transition from milk to solid food, and specific subvarieties grown in the higher elevations of Medina are particularly valued for their stronger and more complex flavor. Sukkari. The name Sukkari derives from the Arabic word for sugary, and the variety earns that name completely, It is one of the sweetest date cultivars grown anywhere in the world, with a flavor profile dominated by caramel and floral richness that makes it immediately recognizable. It is produced primarily in the Al Qasim region of Saudi Arabia, a province deeply proud of its date culture, and within the country it is widely regarded as the most prestigious locally grown variety available. What makes Sukkari particularly interesting is how dramatically its character changes across the stages of ripeness. At the Rutab stage, the semi-ripe phase just before full maturity, the fruit is golden yellow, still slightly firm with a gentle crunch, and the sweetness registers as vibrant and fresh rather than dense and heavy. The skin is thin and delicate and the flesh has a crumbly, almost cookie-like quality that distinguishes it sharply from the chewy softness of a fully ripened date. As ripening continues, the color deepens to amber, the texture becomes progressively softer and more yielding, and the flavor intensifies toward the classic caramel depth the variety is known for. Fresh Sukkari at the Rutab stage does not travel well due to its delicate skin and high moisture content, meaning that most Sukkari available outside Saudi Arabia is dried or processed, a version that is still genuinely good but cannot fully convey what makes the fresh fruit so exceptional. Beyond sweetness, Sukkari contains useful quantities of iron and potassium, giving it a health profile that positions it as a meaningful alternative to refined confectionery. Bahi. The Bahi is unusual among premium date varieties for being widely consumed and celebrated at the Khalas stage, the point at which the fruit is fully grown but still firm, crunchy, and bright yellow, before it has begun to soften into the texture most people associate with dates. At this stage the flavor is genuinely surprising, crisp and refreshing like a fresh apple or pear, with a light coconut and honey undertone that feels closer to a fresh tropical fruit than to the rich, dense sweetness of a conventionally ripe date. It is a completely different eating experience from almost any other variety. The Bahi originates from the Basra region in Iraq, one of the great historical centers of date cultivation, and was introduced to the United States in 1913. Today it can be found as a seasonal specialty in California, Egypt, and throughout the Middle East. As ripening progresses into the Rutab stage, the Bahi loses its crunch entirely and transforms into something equally remarkable but entirely different: soft, almost translucent, warm amber in color, with flesh that is creamy, intensely sweet, and butterscotch-like in flavor, melting almost completely on the tongue. The skin becomes so thin and delicate at this stage that transport becomes very difficult, limiting availability of fully ripe fresh Bahi to a short seasonal window. Because of their small, round, visually appealing form, Bahi dates make attractive garnishes and are often used on cheese boards and fruit platters. In Gulf countries they are a standard table snack served alongside traditional Arabic coffee. Mazafati. Iran's mazafati is known informally as the chocolate date, and the nickname is earned. The fruit is very dark, almost black, with a deep, complex sweetness that carries genuine notes of dark chocolate, molasses, and brown sugar without the cloying quality that makes some very sweet dates difficult to eat in quantity. The flesh is exceptionally soft and high in moisture, and the thin skin peels away easily from the flesh, giving it a clean, yielding eating experience. The variety is closely tied to Bam, a city in Kerman province in southeastern Iran, where its cultivation depends on an ancient network of underground irrigation channels called kanats, engineered water systems that carry mineral-rich water from the mountains into the surrounding drylands. The combination of that mineral-rich water with the dramatic temperature swings between hot days and cold nights in the region is considered essential to developing the depth of flavor and concentrated sweetness that mazafati is known for. Within Iran, it is one of the most widely consumed dates domestically, eaten as a daily snack with tea, served at breakfast, and incorporated into traditional sweet preparations including ranjanak, a pressed date and walnut confection layered with toasted flour, cinnamon, and cardamom whose combination of dark fruit richness, walnut bitterness, and warm spice is deeply satisfying. The devastating earthquake that struck Bam in 2003 significantly damaged both the farming infrastructure and the ancient kanat systems, but producers rebuilt, and mazafati remains a major component of Iran's date export industry today. Zahidi. The Zahidi is among the oldest continuously cultivated date varieties still grown and consumed today, with a history believed to stretch back at least 5,000 years to early farming civilizations in ancient Mesopotamia. It is a medium-sized, oval fruit with golden to light amber coloring at ripeness, a semi-dry and slightly firm texture, and a flavor that is nutty and mild compared to the richness of most premium cultivars. Some historians associate it with date palm references in ancient Mesopotamian texts, and its name may derive from the Arabic word for modest or ascetic, a description that fits the variety's character precisely. Zahidi produces prolifically and handles rough transport and storage conditions better than more delicate types, which made it invaluable historically as a food that needed to travel long distances reliably. Its relatively lower sugar content compared to premium varieties means it is less sticky and processes more cleanly into date paste, date syrup, and dried date products, and a significant portion of the global date processing industry relies on Zahidi specifically for this reason. When date paste appears as an ingredient in packaged foods or date syrup in health products, it likely originated as Zahidi. In Iranian and Iraqi home cooking it appears in stews and rice dishes where its mild character sits comfortably alongside bold spices without competing. It is the primary ingredient in dibs, the thick Iraqi date molasses used as a sweetener and condiment, and is the variety most commonly pressed into commercial date bars and energy products because its consistency and yield make it economically efficient at scale. Piarom. Piarom is widely regarded as Iran's most prestigious and expensive export date variety, grown almost exclusively in the Hajabad area in the south of the country under conditions that differ meaningfully from typical desert date farms. The trees receive water from mineral-rich springs and develop under intense heat, factors that collectively contribute to the fruit's distinctive character. The date itself is long and slender with dark brown skin that adheres tightly to the flesh, giving it a slightly wrinkled but remarkably uniform appearance that stands out visually from varieties with looser, more separated skin. The flavor is deep and refined, evoking toffee and caramel with a lingering light cocoa finish that stays perceptible well after swallowing, a quality that distinguishes it from simpler one-note sweet varieties. The texture is semi-dry and pleasantly chewy with a meaty quality that is neither too sticky nor overly sweet, and it carries a relatively modest effect on blood sugar compared to many other dried fruits when consumed in moderation. Because Piarom grows only in a small geographic area and requires careful hand sorting to maintain quality standards, it is treated as a luxury product, consistently priced higher than most other varieties and typically presented in premium packaging, served alongside good tea or offered in high-end gift boxes. The origins of the name are debated, with some claiming it references a legendary woman from the region and others suggesting a connection to older varieties that eventually developed into the modern Piarom through centuries of cultivation in southern Iran. The palm itself is remarkably hardy, capable of growing in saline soils where most other crops cannot survive. Holawi. The holawi is a soft, exceptionally sweet date from the Basra region of Iraq, one of the ancient heartlands of date palm cultivation where farming has been documented for at least 5,000 years. The date palm was so central to life in ancient Mesopotamia that it became a symbol of prosperity, appearing repeatedly in relief carvings, cylinder seals, and temple decorations as a stylized motif representing abundance and fertility. The holawi is part of that long, unbroken agricultural continuum. The fruit is small to medium in size, elongated in shape, with thin golden brown skin and flesh that is notably softer and more moist than its visual similarity to Deglet Nour might suggest at first glance. It melts on the tongue in a manner reminiscent of Sukkari, with a flavor that is purely and consistently sweet. One of the variety's practical advantages is textural reliability across different drying stages. Unlike some varieties where the skin becomes tough or papery as moisture levels drop, holawi tends to maintain a pleasing consistency through extended storage, making it valuable for producers who need predictable quality. It was among the early varieties introduced to California's Coachella Valley in the early 20th century alongside Deglet Nour and other Iraqi and North African cultivars, part of a systematic effort by California researchers and growers to identify which imported varieties could adapt successfully to American desert conditions. Holawi proved itself a capable producer in that environment and continues to be grown there today, though Medjool and Deglet Nour have since overtaken it in commercial scale. Thoari. The thoari is called the bread date, and the name reflects its essential character as a date built for endurance and utility rather than luxury indulgence. It comes from the dry desert regions of Algeria and the northern Sahara, and it is a true dry date in the most complete sense, firm, very low in moisture, with an almost hard outer layer and a dense, flowery interior texture that gives the variety its common name. For nomadic Berber and Arab tribes crossing the Sahara, Dhouri was not a treat but a survival food. Its extreme dryness allows it to last for years stored in simple leather bags without spoiling, making it ideal for long desert journeys where fresh food and water were scarce and weight had to be minimized. The flavor is mild and nutty with only a light sweetness. It lacks the deep caramel or honey notes of softer varieties entirely, and it is not designed for fresh snacking in the way that Medjool or Sukkari are. Its value is functional. When soaked in water or milk, Dhouri softens into a thick paste that integrates readily into breads, cakes, and energy products, contributing sweetness and binding properties without overwhelming other flavors. In the contemporary outdoor and hiking community, Dhouri has found a natural modern audience. It does not become sticky in heat, provides steady energy through its fiber and mineral content, and survives rough handling without deteriorating. It occupies a completely different niche from premium fresh-eating varieties but fulfills that niche with a reliability no other date matches. Sukkari. The Sukkari, also spelled Sugai or Sugai, is immediately recognizable for a visual and textural characteristic that no other major date variety shares, a single fruit with two entirely distinct zones of texture and color. The upper portion is golden, dry, and slightly crunchy. The lower portion is brown, soft, and chewy. Eating a Sukkari delivers a literal snap at the tip followed by a yielding softness through the body of the fruit, making it an engaging and somewhat playful eating experience. It grows primarily around Al Kharj near Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and during its harvest season running roughly from summer into fall, fresh Sukkari is enormously popular across Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states. The flavor is mildly sweet with notes of light brown sugar, malt, and a hint of molasses, restrained enough to pair beautifully with Arabic coffee, which is traditionally lightly spiced with cardamom and sometimes saffron. That pairing of mildly crunchy date against the bitter warmth of spiced coffee is one of the Gulf's most instinctive and enduring snacking combinations. Sukkari dates are graded with considerable precision, with top-grade specimens required to weigh at least 14 grams each, and this careful grading makes them well-suited for high-end gift boxes across Saudi Arabia and the UAE. They ripen in the middle of the season rather than early or late, which contributes to a price premium relative to more easily available varieties. The two-tone appearance also makes them visually striking in any presentation context. Khalas. In the United Arab Emirates and the eastern province of Saudi Arabia, the Khalas occupies a position of reverence that goes beyond ordinary preference. People familiar with the variety will often say simply that once you have tasted a premium Khalas, there is no reason to search further. The flavor is a caramel and toffee combination layered with floral notes and a deep, almost syrupy richness that manages to feel luxurious without becoming heavy or cloying. The color ranges from golden amber to a deeper rust depending on the ripeness stage, and the texture is soft and luscious with a thin skin that integrates seamlessly into the flesh rather than separating from it. The most celebrated Khalas comes from two sources: the Al Asa Oasis in the eastern province of Saudi Arabia, and specific valleys in Oman. Al Asa is the largest oasis in the world, a UNESCO-listed agricultural landscape of over 2.5 million date palms fed by underground freshwater springs in the middle of the Arabian desert, and Khalas palms are central to that extraordinary landscape. Oman's Khalas carries a slightly different character, with some producers describing a more complex fruitiness in the background that distinguishes it from the Saudi version. Oman has maintained its own centuries-old date industry with strong export connections to the Indian subcontinent, where Omani dates have been traded since the era of Indian Ocean trade routes. Khalas is also used to make high-quality date syrup called dibs and appears in desserts like luqaymat, fried dough balls glazed with syrup and sesame seeds that are among the Gulf's most beloved sweet preparations. Hayani. Egypt is the world's largest date producer by volume, and the Hayani is its most famous fresh variety, a large, elongated date grown in the fertile Nile Valley that stands apart from the dry, concentrated desert dates most associated with the broader Middle Eastern tradition. Where varieties like Medjool or Ajwa are built around intensity of sweetness and depth of flavor, The Hayani offers something entirely different: a mild, refreshingly gentle sweetness accompanied by a subtle tartness and an extraordinary moisture content of approximately 58% at peak freshness, making it closer in eating character to a fresh fruit than to a conventional date. The skin is dark red to almost black, and the interior is soft, juicy, and remarkably fresh-tasting compared to dried desert varieties. The flavor is understated. There is no heavy caramel dominance, no intense honey richness, just a clean, light sweetness with enough complexity to remain interesting. Because of their high moisture content, fresh Hayani dates are typically frozen immediately after harvest to preserve quality throughout the year. In Egyptian cuisine, they are eaten in salads, on fruit platters, blended into smoothies, or used as a stuffing for meat dishes where their subtle caramel note contributes background sweetness without overwhelming the savory character of the preparation. Individual Hayani palms are highly productive, often yielding over 200 kilograms of fruit per tree per season, and are traditionally harvested by skilled climbers using ropes in a practice unchanged over generations. Nutritionally, the fresh fruit is notably lighter and lower in calories than dried sweet varieties, while providing good amounts of potassium and magnesium.